Quisia was born in Honduras. She graduated in Brazil as a medical doctor, general surgeon and family practitioner with a license to practice in Honduras. She moved to the United States 20 years ago and came across the knowledge of Henry George political economy theory. Since then has turned her passion into teaching and advocating for Henry George principles for the last 11 years. She's been teaching fundamental principles of political economy and human rights at the Henry George School of Social Science in New York. She's on the board of directors of the Robert Schockenbach Foundation, and she's on our executive committee of the IU, and she's one of our IU UN representatives. She's also an executive committee of the World Alliance to Transform the United Nations, and a member of the Commons Action for the UN, which is an NGO coalition. She's a speaker on social change in Latin America. She blogs on the Garifuna link and is active in developing international solidarity in defense of human rights and land rights for the Garifuna communities, which are the indigenous people and Afro-descendants in Honduras, which is the main topic of her talk.
Good afternoon. The essence of my speak today, it will be about the Garifuna people in Honduras and the issues on the land that they're facing in for the last 20 years. I have a video that I want to share before I continue to speak. I don't know if Jacob has it kind of ready, if we'll interfere with that, no? It's okay. Because explain the reality of the Garifuna people and how we are being perceived among the whole population of Honduras and the inclusion in the political and social way in Honduras. So please, can you play the video? It is a musical video that represents the perception and what's going on right now with the land for the Garifuna people. What I could say about the Garifuna people is an ethnic group that in 2003 we were recognized by UNESCO as Intangible World Heritage for Humanity, having in existence and for more than 200 years now, all the cultural aspect of the group, and food, tradition, dance, music, everything is still alive, and most of anything we conserve all our customs and language fundamentally. So this video portrays how the people in power in Honduras perceive the African descendant, a very subtle way of racism and discrimination. Ready? You see the cartoon? That rhythm is drums that are very alive in our culture, and you see there is promotion to visit Honduras. But what is in promotion is the Atlantic coast of Honduras, where the Garifuna village have been settled since 1797. Yes. This is a typical Garifuna that is coming to their own villages, making that bridge between USA and Honduras, because the community has been forced to emigrate to the United States. So they're being portrayed as lazy because they're coming from the United States and they don't have to work. And that is true because the majority of the families in Honduras has at least one family member living and working in the United States. So now the way of living is supported by remittance. So people see that in the United States they have a lot of women, money, cars, all bounties that we can imagine. These are the Garifuna returning to Honduras, speaking of the life in their life in the United States. Traditionally, the Garifuna people way of survival is by fishing, planting crops, and from the land. So that fish is red, and we call that fish kalale. So this particular artist matches the kalale because the color with the dollar one empira bill, that is the Honduran currency, that is colored in red. So they call it kalale to make the analogy. They came from the United States bragging that they have money, but when they open the wallet, they only have one empira bills, kalales. And this is a representation of the villages from their own perception, but now it's becoming the attraction for the government, for investment, and to invite foreigner investors to come to the Garifuna villages. This, we could cut it off. Yeah, it's okay. So this is to explain what is happening in the mind of the Garifuna people as well, of the other part of the community and the people in power in Honduras. Because the old Garifuna people, the same Garifuna people, due to this immigration that had been forced, they have abandoned their land, and like, we live in the United States, we have a better life. That means that they are forgetting what is the aim of really creating wealth, what is the essence of that the land should be representing for them. And that's Honduras in the last 20 years, starting for the 1990s, has established new policies that has involved tourism as a main element or aspect for development. And what might be those land, the prospective land, the land where the Garifuna people are. It's good to say that the Garifuna people were settled there in 1797, coming from St. Vincent, an island in the Caribbean that was colony of UK, and the Garifuna population was formed there as an ethnic group mix of West African and indigenous people from the Caribbean, Arawaks and Black Caribbeans. So they battled the slavery of the Britons for 200 years until they couldn't continue, and they agreed to expel those rebellious ones that they don't want to submit to the English domination. So they put it in a ship and sent it to Central America by agreement of the two crowns, Spanish crown and the British crown. So they give the land around the coast, and the Honduras, the Garifuna people were settled there. But for the past 20 years, the Garifuna people were living in peace. No, they didn't have much to preoccupy until the land becomes an issue. Becomes an issue because they have abandoned that land, and because the mega projects of development of Honduras are based in their land. This is to say that not only the Garifuna people are in this problem, in this predicament right now, but other 8 indigenous groups that are being existing in Honduras that are settling settle in lands that has a lot of natural resource, oil, rivers around the areas. So are part of the project of development for Honduras for the last government that in the last 4 years after the coup d'etat has really very viciously grabbing land and evicting people. And to do that, they had a lot of human rights violation, persecution of the community leaders, indigenous leaders, journalists. Honduras has been declared one of the most dangerous places to exercise journalism. Last month on June 25th, they kidnapped a journalist, and 2 weeks ago, more or less 2 weeks ago, the body will reappear, torture with sinus torture, and it was burned. So that is going on. If you speak about land and you reclaim this opportunity, that is the destiny. You can be killed, you can be disappeared, because these groups, paralegals, militaries, and added to that, the big menace to these lands are the drug dealers that are operating now in Honduras, are the principal menace for the Garifuna people. When I presented the video on how we perceive, is to highlight that trying to work with this community is not something easy. It's not easy because we have to work and operate in two different venues. One, the idea and the consolidation of identity, and try to highlight who we are and what is the relation and connection that we have with the land, and why the land is important for human development, for identity consolidation as a nation that we claim we are. In the past 20 years, 20 or 30, the Garifuna people has access, due to this immigration that I mentioned before, to go to school and to become professionals. That also has developed a negative impact, because these new professionals, doctors, name the all the areas, professors, psychologists, whatever, they recognize themselves now as a different class of individuals among their own class, among their own peers as a Garifuna, making the difference that they do not longer belong to that level, lower level of peers. Validating this video where the artist is projecting, you went outside and you come bragging that you are this and that. In reality, we are not anything, because we do not form part of the active political and economic structure in Honduras. That had pushed me, knowing the implication, to work with my own community. I have to confess that 20 years ago, I began to perceive this impact, but I decided I don't have to deal with that. That is not my problem. But the consequences of what has been produced among the Garifuna people has escalated to a point that we are in the verge of a second eviction from the land that they were living as the first time in 1700s. So it's necessary to do something. So there is a region that is called Vallecito. Yeah, Honduras is victim of land grab, right? As in other parts of the world. The next one. Yes, around Puerto Castilla, that, I think this is the west side of Honduras, the east side of Honduras. This area, this region around here, this little over here, there is a land that has been granted new titles, and the people owns the titles. But that same region has the neighboring with one of the wealthiest men in Honduras, Miguel Facusé, that once was his nephew was president a couple years ago. In 2000, I think he left the presidency. And he's one of the most important planters of growers of oil palm. And he wanted that land to grow oil palm. And very profusely, they are being attacked, the Garifuna, the land. But what happened is, even they have this title, the Garifuna people has kept kind of idle that land. And if you speak with them, they tell you that land is ours, it's our land, but they don't know what to do with that land. So I start conversation with these leaders that are defending that land, but obviously they think they're doing the right thing. They don't have no idea what to do. They have a concept to create cooperatives, but in the very low level of production, that it doesn't show that really is elevating the community from poverty. So the same people neighboring of that region that's called Vallecito, they are leaving the people alone, and they're not living there, trying to create housing or something that can show that they are using that land. So how to convince these people that the land is important for them, they can avoid this problem of fighting, because their life is has been threatened every day. How to convince them? So I start talking. It's very difficult. You said, stop talking about Henry George. Well, what are we going to say? So just to show the people that you are nobody, you have no cultural perspective of survival if you do not have land where you can develop all your cultural aspect. And we have this debate among ourselves. And I myself, that as I mentioned, in the beginning I said I have nothing to do with this, is because I was born and raised in La Ceiba, as the third city in Honduras, and I'm not quite fluent in our language, because for survival against the subtle discrimination, my father prohibited my mom to teach us the language. But I understand, and it's up to me to overcome that handicap, which I'm doing. But among my community, I'm being discriminated because they say you are not an original Garifuna. So I have to overcome that, and for the last 3 years, I have been, I have been writing this cultural aspect of the Garifuna people, dance, the drums, next one, and what they're facing, a cost from the government to develop the major projects in their land. And as I mentioned, it has been very difficult, because I have to battle the mentality of my own people to make them understand how to validate their own cultural aspect, how to make survival, and it's a process of healing. As I said, this is a project of healing and cultural survival, because the distortion and imagining who we are just because we got a professionalization, like getting a title as a doctor, a lawyer, a professor, whatever, that doesn't make us part of the system. We're not being included, but we are being utilized to conquer, because they are being divided by the incentive of telling them, oh, you're one of us. But in reality, there are no real recognition, because the constitution of Honduras doesn't include and separate each tribal or different ethnic groups. We do not being recognized over there. So it's just a general recognition as a Honduran citizen, but when it comes to really implement those rights, also it's not being clear defined in the Constitution. What Constitution? If in 2009, Honduras undergo coup d'etat, and since then, a lot of violation has continued of the Constitution. Violation of the Supreme Court of Justice. They dismiss the front room of the Supreme Court. 5 Supreme judges were dismissed because they had made a decision on constitutionality of the idea of the government created the special region for charter cities. So it's going on and on and on. The process from the legal system to produce this eviction and dispossess of indigenous people of their land. And the Garifuna people are part of that, but also with the contribution of the idea of who they are and their distortion created by the immigration and the different duality in realities. One reality of the people who lives in the United States and the reality that of the people that is struggling for survival and for retaining the rights for their land. So what is the next step for me in this? Well, I continue to make my conversation, to open up the dialogue. How I'm doing that? Well, I have been spending for the past 3 years in developing the dialogue among the leadership. It's very difficult for them to listen because there is competition among who you are, what you know, and what the area where you are. So they don't want to listen. But till this moment, I guess that I had advanced a lot because at least they have shut off the promotion of the projects of the government, but they are really trying to watch what's going on. And recently that I have and I said this, that I think that I have been having a positive effect is because recently I have my account hacked in Yahoo account, and somebody wrote back and said, please, there is a message saying that our sister, Dr. Quisia Gonzalez, is stranded in Filipinas and needs some help and money. So please investigate who's going on. Our only intellectual person that we have probably needs our help. And I read that and I said, oh, okay. And this guy wasn't a Honduran, he was a Garifuna from Guatemala. So I'm speaking on behalf of the land issue, the problem, and the 2 fronts of problem that we have. The abandonment of the land from the Garifuna people per se, and the idea of how to be integrated and included into the social development and economic development. How to do it. So the next stage for me is to really introduce the rights ideas to them and how to talk about the land value and how to apply it to the diversity of different aspects. As you see with this story, you can see that the problem is similar, but the approach and the root and each of one is kind of different, but with the same result, the loss of the land and the perpetuation of poverty if they don't know how to recapture the value of the land and to implement and better the use of their land.
Very good summary.
Any questions? This is a look of the the majority of the village of the Garifuna people looks like that. You will see groups dancing and playing drums. There's something very colorful. And now that they are heading to protest and how to speak about the problems, now they are getting more together, and this is happening in Belize, in Guatemala, sort of in Nicaragua, but the majority of the Garifuna people are concentrated in Honduras. This is in Belize.
Okay, we're at about the end of our time. Thanks, Quisia, so much.